Okay, so we're mounted up. I'm just giving it a quick pass just to see what it's looking like. As you can see, when you spin it, it is quite out of shape. So we'll need a couple more passes just to get this base flat. Once the base is flat, we'll mark tenon, clean this edge up, shape the back, and then swap it over. We're running at about 500 RPM. Can't really run much faster than that because of the shape of the timber. You can also do it as a push cut. Still a little bit here to take off. Look at that. That is really rather pretty. Right, let's mark centre while we're here. So this will be our tenon. There you go. And then I think we're going to put some feet on this bowl. So this is currently measures just over 14 inches across. I suspect by the time we've got it round, it might be down to about 13.5, maybe 13 inches. So where are we going to look at? So I think we'll put the feet right there, maybe. Let's get it flat and have a look. There we go. So we cleaned up the base. That's where the feet are going to be. That's our tenon in the centre. We'll just move and make a cut. Clean up this edge. Running about 700 now. There's a nice big crack in there. Let's do something with that. So we know that fits okay, so that's good. So that's 35. Now we thin down here, that's down to 30. That's the thinnest. It's about 25 mil. So the final platter size is going to be about 25 mil. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shape this. This is going to be where the foot sits, and then we'll run the shape up here. See what happens. Running about 800 RPM now. Do a bit of sanding now. Apologies for the noise. So you'll note that I haven't finished this edge in any way, shape or form. There's a line running through here, and I've put a little bit of a cove to run from the bead into the cove to out. This has been sanded to 400 grit and then used the eyewear pads on, which has already built up a nice shine. I'm in two minds as to whether to put sanding sealer and wax this, or whether just to oil it, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So what I'm going to do now is just swap this over, hold it in the tenon, clean up this face, sort this edge out, hollow it, and then sand, and we'll see where we go from there. But first, a quick slurp of coffee. As you can see, it's quite thin here. It's thinner here, quite fat here. So we just need to get this flat as a first stage. Make sure it runs without catching the tool rest. Turn the speed right down, stand out the firing line, turn it on. That's running at about 800 RPM. Can't go much faster than that. I'm going to put a curve on this edge. So we're just roughing it at the moment. Still need to sort this edge out here. Bring that back in a little bit, make sure you're not catching anywhere. I have to sharpen the tools in a second, so I'll just swap over to this smaller tool for the minute. As you can hear it bouncing, it's cutting a lot of air. That's just where it's not very flat. Come off. A quick check with the gauge. Yes. Okay, that's running at 1200. So these are the two tools that I'm using today. You see the grind on there. That's a 1/4 inch ball gauge, and this I think is a 3/8. That's the difference a sharp tool will make. Because this is a thin platter, you need to be checking the thickness all the time. Still got a little bit to move out there, so we're just going to curve it round here and then curve it into the centre. Do this. So this is what the platter's going to look like. But as you can see, there's a bit of pucky wood here and a few cracks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill these with some metal powder, I think, and then sand and finish. So we're going to use the chestnut really thin glue, and I've got some powders. I've got copper, aluminium or silver, brass, which is kind of goldy colour, think I'm quite tempted to go with the copper. Let's see. So the brass stands out a bit more, doesn't it? So I think we'll go with the brass today. These powders you can pick up from most good suppliers. I picked mine up from Yandles. Put a link in the bottom. Just that goes all the way through. So I might just line that with some that'll prevent that from and it's just a case of pouring the brass powder into the cracks. Want a really nice fine brush, just to brush it into the cracks and then away. Yeah, those go all the way through, so we'll come back to those. And then you just trickle the super glue, because it's so thin, it's a bit like water, it just penetrates those cracks. And we'll seal the brass powder in. Like so. Just put a bit more on there. there's lots of little cracks in here, the best way to get a really smooth finish is to do some reverse turning. So you sand with one grit one way, and then you sand with another grit in the opposite direction, and this will pick up any of those fibres that have been pushed flat when turning one way or the other way. But in order to do so, you must remember to lock your chuck onto the spindle. There's a little locking pin that comes with the chucks. Just screw that onto the spindle and it just prevents it from unwinding, because as soon as you start turning the opposite way, the chuck's going to want to unwind itself from the spindle. That was just a tack cloth at the end to take off any dust. There we are. Note that I'm just holding the tack cloth with my fingertips, so if it ever got caught it would be pulled away and out of my hand. And there we go. All we've got to do now is remove the back. So this is the platter. Okay, get rid of that bit now. See where the brass powder came through. So we'll just take this bit off, and then you'll see that it will sit on this rim here. There we go. So as usual, when we take off a tenon using a compression drive, and that's our compression drive, we'll hold this on here like so, bring the tailstock up, clean that bit off, sand, and we'll be done. First of all, I think I'm going to give it a quick coat of sanding sealer just to protect it. Back in a second. So it's a bit cold in the workshop today, so I'll just give it a tickle over with the hairdryer. This is the spray sealer rather than the liquid. Make sure that's touch dry. There we go. And let's just readjust you so you can see what's happening. There we go. Tool sharpened again. Check that everything's running okay. Turn the speed right down. Make sure that's biting. Now, what you've got to be careful with these cones is that what it will do, it will force the fibres apart. So you want to hold this in place so that you can cut, but don't push it in too far. It's running about 550. So that up to about 700. I think I'm just going to use the 1/4 inch today. There we go. So that's just a flush cut saw. Got those from Axminster. Just allows you to cut that little knobble off without marking the surrounding area. And then we can go over to the power sander. Okay, so that's the back sanded and sealed. Just give the sanding sealer a quick blast off with the hot gun, or a hairdryer in this case. Now we'll just let that go off. And while we let that go off, we'll go over to the buffing system. Give it a buff. So Oak has a open grain. What that means is that the grain here, you can see that the grain is quite open in texture, and this is great for when you want to accentuate that grain, because you can rub the soft summer growth out. But it also means when using the buffing system that if you use the white compound, if you're not careful, the white compound can get pushed into the grain, and it will leave white streaks. So when I'm buffing open grain timber, I just have to be careful as to what colour compound I use. So the brown compound is perfect for this. If I use the white compound, you'll see it in the grain. It's like with ash. Don't use the red compound or the brown compound on the ash, because that will get embedded into the grain. So the red compound has a small amount of cutting material in it, so that will denib the sanding sealer that we sprayed on. And that will start to generate the shine. I'm just going to do this edge because we've rolled the edge on here. It's not a straight edge. And then we can swip it over and do the back. Just turn it down slightly to do that rim. Now the white compound is not as coarse as the red compound, but as I say, don't want to get any of the white compound in that nice grain, so we're going to jump straight to the C wheel and we're going to wax it. So this is the microcrystalline wax stick. Microcrystalline melts at a slightly higher temperature than the bees and carnauba wax, which means when you handle it, it won't leave any fingerprints on the piece of work. Also, it leaves a bit of a waterproof protection. That's 1400 RPM. Don't want to put too much wax on the wheel. It's easier to add a bit more wax than it is to try and take it off the wood once it's been put on. There you go. I'll just take it away and take some nice photos. Perfect for your cheese and biscuits.